becoming a millionaire or a billionaire, having a beautiful partner, spouse,
doesn't change
nothing will fix the hole in the soul. This comes back to addiction, right? This is what millions of addicts in the world learn.
Finding your tribe is something I always talk about, because I always go back to when I was a kid, how important it was to have people who were on my wavelength.
We're all addicts to some degree. At the age of 11, 12, I started gambling very heavily. By the time I was 22, I was suicidal. Earlier this year, I took to the streets to sell my book, and I knocked 30,000 doors, 40,000 doors in the matter of a few months.
Formula for success was preparation and opportunity, right? But prior to that, in order to be bothered to prepare, you need to believe you've got a chance, right? Welcome to the Today is About podcast. Today is about Matt Main. Matt, welcome.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
It is, we're in London. It's wet. It's raining. It's grey. It's awful. We were just saying it's, what was your description?
We were talking about Armageddon and the state of the weather in London, and it's a beautiful October evening, lots of rain.
Yeah.
And
But the weather's been really, I wanted to say scatty. Like, it just doesn't seem to know what it wants to do with each other. I'm not going to be that person who starts off talking about the weather. I'm going to jump straight in with the important stuff.
Sounds good.
You look nervous, Matt. Don't be nervous.
No.
So just to give some background, me and Matt have known each other for a few years, and we're both authors. And Matt, we were both pretty much writing our books at roughly the same time. It was like in alignment.
Yeah.
Matt's book is way more meatier than mine. So this is Matt's book. A gold medal is a wonderful thing. Whereas I did 38 poems, so there's no comparison to what is this like.
But yours was quality.
Aww.
Quality over quantity.
No. Oh, that was so sweet. It's not about me. Yeah, but yours is like over 300 pages. It's a daily reader, isn't it? So it should be what, 365?
It's 365, but I did 367. And everybody always asks, why 367? And so I explain, well, of course, you've got the leap day in February 29.
Yeah.
Of course, you can't leave that out, because then people will get to every 4 years, they'll get to February 29. They'll be like, where's today? And I also put in an extra January 1st.
Oh.
At the end. So, yeah, when you get around to the end of the year, the way these books work is that you can obviously go again.
Yeah.
And there'll be new and fresh things that come up every time you read. But I just thought it would be quite cool to put in an extra January 1st for everyone to kickstart the next year with something new.
I like that idea. I also like that. Like, I'm being a bit silly in this sense, but sometimes when you go out on New Year's Day, you're really hungover. When you're hungover, you wake up early, and you're like, it's too early for this. So sometimes you have 2 January 1st. So I think it's a nice touch.
The still hungover version and the
and
little
then
bit later on.
I've come back to life. I'm here.
There's a new year started. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is funny that, because we're in October and I cannot believe 10 months have passed. Like I saw a meme when it was like, I find it scary that it's Christmas in 2 months. And I was like, so do I.
I know.
So, yeah. Anyway, back to the book. I think one of the, my burning questions for you was, and we kind of touched on it on the Instagram Live, but let's really delve into it here. This book is a daily reader, but it's also philosophy, film, and meditation. Now, philosophy and meditation I get, but the film, I like the curveball, but why? Why this book?
That's a great question. And it's so basically it all goes back to childhood. Mm-hmm. So we discussed yesterday on the Instagram Live a little bit about it, and growing up, like no doubt millions, if not billions of kids around the world, you grow up, you watch the cartoons, you watch the films, and I was born 84. So I was watching particularly the films of the 80s, 70s, 80s, early 90s during that time as a child. That included the Disney classics, Beauty and the Beast and The Jungle Book and Robin Hood and all those types of films. and then films like Home Alone and My Girl and stuff like that. And from the youngest age, I would always imitate and mimic the films, and I'd run around the house and I'd be pretending to be Kevin in Home Alone, you know.
Do we have this on camera?
Do we have this on camera?
Because you remember that was the period when parents were like, video cameras!
The VHS kind of, the camcorders era. Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. I don't think so. I
Lucky.
think that,
Very lucky escape.
I've dodged that one. But who knows? There may be some videos that surface in the future. But so I loved films, as I said, as of course millions of kids and adults of course do. But for me, it was such an immersive experience, and I'd memorized the lines. My favourite film growing up was Cool Runnings, about the Jamaican bobsled team. And I'll tie that in a little bit in a moment about the book. And as I grew up, and then of course you go through adolescence and your teenage years and into adulthood, and to this day, I still think in terms of films. So we have a few mutual friends and acquaintances. A lot of the guys that I hang around with, we love our films, and we always use films as a kind of reference point for real life, and vice versa. So, for example, if I go to a restaurant and I'm paying for the bill, and I tip the waiter or waitress, you know, and they say, "Oh, no, that's for you. Keep the change."
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking of Kevin and Home Alone. Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Yeah.
I don't say that bit to people, of course, because that would get me into trouble. But so I'm always thinking in terms of films. And so the book started, I'd always wanted to write a book. And, we won't be able to cover everything in this session. But, I've lived in China. I've been on a Christian, 2-year immersive missionary experience. Yeah. I've sold multi-million-dollar properties. I've appeared on TV in front of hundreds of millions of people in China. So I've had quite an interesting life experience. And it'd always been a case of I want to write a book, but I don't quite know which angle to take or which elements of my story and my journey to sort of focus in on. And then it was 3 years ago. It was the June of the first summer of COVID.
Yeah.
And of course, we're all locked down. I'm working from home. And I've kind of watched everything on Netflix and Amazon Prime and everything. And I'm just sat there at the end of the day looking at the wall. And the idea just came to me. I'd had the idea of a daily reader, a daily style, just devotional, very simple, light thoughts to inspire the reader. And I'd had the idea of film quotes, but I'd never had the two meet.
Yeah.
And so it was on that night. If I've ever had what you could call true eureka moments, I've probably in reality only had a few in my life, like real lightning bolt moments, which there's a quote for that too, of course. Smee, Bob Hoskins in the film Hook, Dustin Hoffman, Bob Hoskins, Robin Williams, Julie Roberts goes, "Lightning's just struck my brain." And so that was what happened on that particular evening. And I thought, why don't I blend the two? Started typing there and then on my computer the first couple of days, which remain as they are in the book now, and that was that. It was 18 months of writing, and I was still at that point working in my brother's fintech company.
Yes.
With him, my older brother has a fintech company, so I was still working with him, and I was writing, evenings, weekends, and just the passion coming out, and it was great because there's lots of quotes that I had that I'd had for varying amounts of time, some going all the way back to childhood, that I loved and I wanted to get into the book because there was a great nugget of inspirational wisdom that you can extract from it. And of course I had to research and find a lot more.
Yes. Yeah, of course. I mean, I've had this book for a while, but I also have a massive to be read pile. I don't know, it's like a bookie thing. And I started reading this a few days ago, and I actually was working backwards. Nice. So I started on my day, and then I was like moving backwards. When you're like, I really see you in this book. So me and Matt, for a while, we were doing this thing where we just go to the park and we would just talk. But we were really talking. Like, we would talk. It was a lot of philosophy, wasn't it? We did a lot of philosophy, which was really nice for me because I don't really get to talk about it much. And it was nice to meet someone who actually wanted to talk about it. Not like, so, what do you feel about justice? And they're like, seriously, I just want to eat.
I just want to talk about EastEnders and
So,
Love Island.
So when I read this book, I really see that, and I really see you in the book, and I think that's a nice thing to take away.
That's good to hear. Right?
Yeah.
That's really good to hear when you get that, and no doubt you've had it from people. I can tell you, your book of poetry.
No, seriously, don't talk about my book. Matt, this is your pod.
But you can see it, and that's what's great, right? That's what art, any artistic expression,
Yeah.
writing, creating a painting, a film, anything should be about you being able to express your authenticity, right?
Yeah,
That's
and
a key word for me that always comes up, authenticity.
yeah, and it's a really good point actually, because in the creative field, there's a lot of copying. There isn't, and I think when you are authentic, it really shines through, and it's so important as a creator in any walk of life to be authentic. It's your guiding star, isn't it? So yeah.
There's a book that I really admire, and it's also what you call a daily reader, daily devotional style book, and I love it, and I've got it, and I read it. I've got quite a few daily devotionals, and it was quite helpful as a reference point.
Yeah.
I had what I'm sure lots of people, countless people have had when they're everything from designing a house to writing a book of poetry or anything.
Yeah.
I had that at the very beginning of thinking, oh, let me refer to that to see how they've done it. And I had to stop myself quite consciously and deliberately at the beginning and go, look, it's not about, of course, there's nothing wrong with using something as a reference point and saying, how can I be inspired by that? And, what's some of the things that they've done that are really cool. But I had to stop myself quite quickly from that, just going down that line of thinking of, oh, let me check how they did it.
Yeah.
No. Like, I want to do it my style, my way. So I think what's really interesting about a gold medal is that there is a real blend of quite what you might call more deeper thoughts and ideas and nuggets, but there is also some lightness as well, and some silliness. And I think the fact that it's the film quotes really adds to that and lends to that, because of course it's very contemporary. Film is first and foremost entertainment, right?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty. It's entertainment, but it is also philosophy. It is also wisdom. It is also art. But you never, as I always say, you never go to the cinema, right, let's go and get some philosophy. Let's go and get some deep thinking. No, you go for fun. You go to be entertained.
I do think there's like in the film buff world, which I'm not a part of. I observe sometimes, but I feel like in the film buff world, like they are observing film to learn, and I do. Oh, sorry. I just had this memory of my friend. So basically, when I was in school, I had this friend called Katia. She goes by Kat now. And she used to actually take a book to the cinema, a notebook, and she would write down the quotes, because we had a few incidents where we were singing songs and people would say what they thought was the song lyric, and we'd all turn and be like, that's not the lyric. So
Really?
yeah, so she got in the habit of like writing these quotes down, and it was brilliant, because every now and again she'd just be like, yeah. So I do think there's like especially as teenagers, you take so much on from film. I did anyway. So yeah, I think
the thing about films is that, like, if you take some of the obviously, of course, then you go into subjective. I was going to say the greatest films, but a lot of people would agree. Some great films like Gladiator, Russell Crowe, getting
take a drink,
getting some funny looks from Ayo, but a film that to a wide extent have been well received by lots of people. If you take Gladiator, and I talk about it in some pages of the book, you watch that film and whatever you think about it, it's entertainment, right? It's about Maximus, Russell Crowe, and he was a Roman general, soldier. Then everything goes wrong. His family is killed, his wife, his child, his son. He then goes into slavery. He then becomes...
I'm just going to say, if anyone has not seen the film, this is the biggest spoiler. And it's quite late. I really apologise.
If anyone has not seen this film, Gladiator, in 2023, then... you deserve to have it spoiled. No, just joking.
I mean, people have been spoiling Top Boy for like weeks, like day after it came out. So whatever, carry on.
So yeah, if you don't want Gladiator spoiled, and you've somehow not seen it, and you do want to see it, then stop listening. But yeah, and he goes through all of that, and of course ends up becoming a gladiator, as per the title. And, you can observe that and you can just take it for what it is and enjoy the film or not or whatever. But there are themes, right? There are stories that happen that that are being given to you during the film as an experience. A bit like my mum and my youngest brother were just at the National Portrait Gallery the other day. And, we were on our family chat and it was that sort of like, no, how was it? It's like, wow, just when you go somewhere like that, you're transported to a different world, right? The creations that people make are they blow your mind, and you enter that world or whatever it is that they've painted or whatever it is that you see, and just the energy of being in a beautiful place where everyone's going to appreciate the creations that humanity that are better, the better side of us are able to do. And so going back to the film, and you watch Gladiator, it's entertainment, it's fun, it's enjoyable, it's fighting and romance and all the different elements. But below that, you're also being asked questions, right? You're being asked the question, like, as you view through Maximus' eyes, you're being asked, what would I do for love? What would I do for vengeance? How would I respond to such a situation? You don't normally think that, but I believe that you are being asked those questions. And then it's up to you whether you want to take that into your day-to-day life. You might wonder how you can do that if you're walking down an average street in London and think, okay, how do I apply the lessons that Maximus learned? But
traveling on TfL will probably you're a gladiator if you can get to your destination, as you found out today. So.
Well, I just took the tube to get over here from West London. I have to admit, I was a little bit like tiny, just had to regain my composure when I got here to the studio.
I actually remember once I was on the tube and I think I was coming somewhere on the District line and the train stopped like in between stations. And then I was starting to get really stressed. I was running really late and I was just getting stressed being in this tunnel. So when it stopped at Sloane Square, I just got off because I just needed air. I just needed to breathe the earth and not be underground in a tunnel with mice. Okay, I'm really not selling it, but yeah, sometimes it's really tough on the underground. So yeah. Anyway, right. We will come back to the book. But before we do that, we must do the very important quickfire round. So it's an either or, basically. I'm going to say two things and you tell me which one you like or don't like.
All right.
Okay. Confucius or Rumi?
Confucius.
Okay. Pizza or pasta?
Oh. Both.
You can't have both.
I can't.
This is not an either or.
You're speaking to a guy I've been on holiday to Italy like 4 or 5 times in many years. It's like if I absolutely had to choose pasta.
Oh, strong. Okay. Music or reading?
Oh gosh. These are killers. These are killers. This is like, breathing or sleeping, food or water. It's like...
okay, I haven't been that hard.
If I had to choose, it'd be music.
Okay.
Shouldn't be allowed to say that as a writer, but...
Yeah, I get it. I get it, though. And you have to write the music.
True, exactly.
TV or podcast?
Oh. TV.
Okay. Walk in the park or walk on the beach?
Walk on the beach.
And that's the quick fire round.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. I always find it funny how people are like, no, I can't choose. One of my friends was like, I said mayo or ketchup, and she's like, no, burger sauce. I was like, that's not an option. So, no, they're always quite fun. So I think one thing which we've skipped, which we probably should have done first, but we're going to do now, is your background. Because you're Scottish.
I'm Scottish.
I said that so suspiciously. You're Scottish.
Aye.
Which I find really interesting because I went to a Welsh girls' school in England. So I'm always intrigued by the other nations that make up the UK. So you're Scottish. When did you move to the south?
Well, the question really here is how long do we want to discuss this?
Let's not take too long, but just give us a little brief.
So my mum is Scottish.
Yeah.
My mum is from a place called Nairn.
Okay.
Nairn. Nairn, as most people would pronounce it, but the locals actually say Nairn.
Okay.
And it's like Nairn cakes. You got the little
Oh,
rice
okay.
cakes or whatever it is, oat
Yeah,
cakes in the shop. And that's about 15 miles east of Inverness,
Okay, yeah.
which is a place that most people know. And Inverness is the capital of the Highlands.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite high up in Scotland, just before that last sort of leg of the land. And so that's where my mum's from. My dad is English, and he was serving in the Royal Air Force as a young man. So they were both 18 when they met.
Okay.
And he was, positioned up in the north of Scotland, serving in the RAF. And my mum and dad met, and the rest is history. Of course, they got married very young at 18, 19, and then started to have their children. So I'm one of 4 boys. I'm number 2.
There are 4 of you?
Yeah,
I thought there were 3.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, carry on.
Yeah, so there's 4 of us, and I'm number 2.
Yeah.
And so, but we left Scotland when I was the age of about 2, 3.
Oh, okay.
Then we came to London the first time.
Yeah.
And then for the first 16 years of my life, so to do it in reverse, from 16 till now, I've pretty much been in London.
Okay.
Except for my own soirees and excursions that I've done personally. But the family, we've been in London. But from birth to 16, we lived in probably 6 different places. 7 different
because you were having
Yorkshire, Lincolnshire, Germany, London, and a few other places. Yeah.
Okay.
So we've moved around a lot. And that also adds to my character and to my story, because as a child, when you move around all the time, it's quite disconcerting. It's really difficult. You've just settled in. You've got your little friends. You've got your little routine. You know the area. And then, bam, 2 years. And it's like, right, one day your parents sit you down and say, kids, we're moving somewhere else. And you're like, oh, I don't want to go.
It's really interesting you mentioned that, because somebody we did have on the pod, but it hasn't been released yet, is Nick Perrin, who is a poet, workshop host, coordinator, does all the good things. Anyway, I met Nick last weekend, and he was talking about his work he does with military children.
Really?
And it was really about the moving around they have to do as a result of their parents' job. I did not know that about you, though.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's...
Well, a lot of people that have met me, in the last 20 years living in London, you just naturally, he's a London boy. He's kind of, obviously the accent. I don't have a Scottish accent, of course. I can do my really terrible stereotyped Scottish accent. That's Aberdonian. Aberdeen.
I didn't even know what
language.
that was.
Yeah, that's far you fit.
Okay.
Is where are you from?
Okay.
Far where you fit from. Far you fit. And there's a classic Aberdeen just sort of expression, fit like, which doesn't really mean anything. But
I thought it meant you're fit.
Well, fit means what?
Oh.
So it's hard. It's kind of hard to interpret, to translate. But so it's a lot of people don't know that. Yeah, it's quite interesting. But I think that has. I'm a very eclectic person in terms of what I like, in terms of what I do. So I think things like that have also fed into me and given me that kind of background, that story where I have a lot of broad range of interests and hobbies and things that kind of really interest me. So.
And you have a broad life experience for someone in their 30s. Like, you've done a lot. We won't go too much into it because, it's up to you. But yeah, I mean, you've. Oh, sorry. I have a 7:00 reminder, which is ridiculous because it literally there's no reason for it. Nothing happens at 7:00. It's just to remind me it's 7:00 and time is moving.
It's a good time to have as a reminder. 7:00.
Is it necessary? Okay, this is what happened. Sorry, everyone, just to interrupt, but I need to explain myself. The alarm set itself. I don't know how it did it, and I haven't quite figured out how to unset it. So now I've just kept it as the 7:00 reminder.
And it's intentional.
It's become intentional.
Pretend, right, I've got something to do now. I'm not quite sure what, but
time to go. But yeah, sorry. But yeah, that was the alarm. Anyway, with regards to your broad life experience, do you feel that it's fed into your philosophy, or it's because of your philosophy that you've had these broad life experiences? Or is this a chicken and an egg?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I would probably, because that's such a good question and it's sort of unanticipated, it's now just going to come from intuition, right? From
You don't have to answer it now.
Yeah, no, but that's a good question. I think it probably is.
Yeah.
Both. I think it's probably symbiotic, that it's my nature has fed into the way that I see things and how things have played out, and also vice versa. I was thinking about this the other day, actually, and also in preparation for this podcast session, of like thinking about my life and thinking, yeah, why have I had such an interesting and sort of diverse life? I've been heavily into religion and then not. I've been heavily into learning and then not. I've traveled. I've done this. I've done that. I've done so many different jobs. I make some of my close friends and family laugh. Like recently, I committed, and I've only got halfway through, but I committed to writing down all the different things that I've ever done to earn, a pound coin.
Yeah.
I mean, I lost track at like dozens and dozens and dozens of things.
Yeah.
I've done all sorts. And now, of course, it's when you try to think about them, isn't it, that your mind freezes. But everything from sales to admin to logistics to just all sorts of things. And I think that I've just got I love life. And, it's like when people say, what are your hobbies? It's like, and I just start reeling them off. It's like, well, music, playing piano, chess, sports, watching sport, playing sport, walking, cycling. I've flown an aeroplane once.
No way!
Which I love. That's a classic.
I haven't flown a plane. I've seen an airstrip at my uni.
That's the closest you got.
There was a flight school there, but that's about as close as I've got to flying a plane.
Oh, it's such a... I've got quite a sensitive stomach, sensitive tummy. So obviously on a plane, whatever you think, however agile and the effect that it has physiologically when you get on a plane, right? I mean, hopefully, most people have been on a plane in terms of a normal plane, a commercial plane. Of course, when you're on a small plane, the feelings that it exerts, the pressures is obviously a lot greater because you're in a much smaller plane that's moving much more nimbly through the air. So I was actually feeling a little bit like, oh gosh, but the feeling of, again, going back to a commercial flight, right, you can only ever see out sideways. So just the fact that when you fly on a little plane yourself or with the instructor, and you can see out the front, I love to always look out on life. So that's another aspect of my character. Whether I'm in a restaurant or I'm sat at home in my flat, I'm always looking out the window because I just love observing life and being a part of life. And so when I'm on a plane, I always gravitate towards the window seats. But you can only ever see out sideways, of course, on a commercial flight. So when you fly a little plane yourself,
you get to see.
You get to see what the pilot of any plane sees, which is to see the whole world as it is in front of you. And it's an exhilarating thing.
You've inspired me. I'm not going to do it because the idea of flying a plane is like the last thing on my mind. Like it actually terrifies me. I don't even know how I get into planes. It's just that I need to get places. That's the only thing moving me to get onto a plane these days.
I think you're probably with a big group of people in that category that just it's a means to an end.
Yeah, it really is. Like, anyway, I'm not going to go into plane travel. Now, you mentioned that you worked in fintech, and I'm going to touch on this very, very quickly, but I just want to get your opinion on where you think fintech is going.
That's another good question. Fintech, I worked, so just to give a little bit of background, so I worked with my older brother. As I said, I'm number two. So my older brother, he has a fintech company, and that is money transfer. So it's transferring money from one place to another, and it's also payment processing. So whenever you've got a business, right, you need to take card payments, whether it's in store or restaurant or shop or whatever,
or
it may
online,
be, or whether it's online, done digitally. Card not present is what the technical term. So when you're not obviously physically there buying whatever it is that you may be purchasing, and so fintech it's changing rapidly. It's a bit like payment techniques at the moment. We're actually kind of in limbo because, sort of, for example, credit cards have obviously been around for quite a long time now.
Yes.
Now, there's been some advancement, which is, for example, the fact that you can now use your phone and that you can have your card stored on your iPhone or your Android or whatever and obviously pay, and you don't need the physical card anymore. But other than that, so it's a question of, how are things going to play out? Crypto, is that going to become mainstream and replace
Money,
money and government
currency.
issued
Yeah.
currency, or will it be government issued? So the CBDCs at the moment, central bank digital currencies, are the thing that is the hot topic, and if and when, or a lot of people would say when rather than if, because it's almost inevitable. But yeah, fintech is, ultimately everything is about tech these days, right? And I'm a little bit old school,
Yeah.
and I always used to joke with everyone. It's a little bit ironic because I worked in fintech for 4 years, and it's a great industry, and I loved it. But I'm a bit old school. But everything is just about tech. So reg tech, ad tech, marketing tech,
What's
fintech,
red tech?
regulation.
Oh.
So just everything, the different dimensions of tech as it
yeah.
is applied to all the different
But they're always slow with the
areas.
regulators, aren't they?
Yeah.
The tech comes first, and then they go, "Oh, we should regulate that."
Well, exactly. Well, I'm not going to talk about regulating. I was in the risk and compliance side
so that was really
for my brother's company. Yeah. So, and there's a story to how that sort of played out, but how that came about. But there's always a lot of regulation, and in the financial industry, of course, here in the UK, it's the FCA,
yes.
and the Financial Conduct Authority. So you've always got to stay one step ahead of all the different regulations and rules and things. So
And make sure you're in line as well, and you're
Yeah.
not getting fined. Yeah.
exactly,
Sounds like a fun job.
it was.
Okay, so we're going to move off of fintech, but I was very curious about that. But I think one of the big topics, and I haven't read enough of the book to know if this comes in at all, is addiction. And, your view on addiction, because we've spoken a lot about addiction, what it means to be an addict, what it means to experience that, well, it's hell really, turmoil, I would say. And I don't know, I want to give you free rein here because it is quite a personal subject, and it can be quite polarizing. So I just kind of want to let you say what you want to say about
Sure.
it.
I am an addict, so that would be the first thing to say. The first and the sort of starting and end point would be to say I am an addict. Addiction is, there's 8 billion people on the planet, right? We're all different, but we're all the same.
Yeah.
It's that dichotomy. We've all got uniqueness and individuality, but we're also all the same. We've got the same basic drives, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We've all got the same basic drives and pushes and pulls, starting from the most basic and physiological and obvious ones: food, water, sunlight, sleep, etc., up to more nuanced self-expression, self-actualization, the way that you find meaning and purpose within your own life. Similarly, I think when we talk about addiction, so and hopefully a bit of whether this is controversial or not, but a bit of controversy is always good. I believe we're all addicts to some degree. I say that as someone who, at the age of 12, I started gambling very heavily.
Yeah.
And that was caused from different life circumstances. And by the time I was 22, I was suicidal. And I'd been heavily suicidal and in despair and in just complete, personal oblivion for at least a couple of years at that point, at the age of 22. And I'd hit complete, what is often referred to as rock bottom, in terms of your own personal circumstances. And I'd hit rock bottom, and my gambling came out. My friends, my family, all blew up. For I'd been working, so I didn't go. This will be an interesting one. I didn't attend college,
Right.
what we call in the UK, right? Because I always think of kind of in American terms as well. What we'd call A levels, and then university or college, as it's called elsewhere. I didn't do that. I didn't really even finish my schooling at 16, actually, truth be told. By 14, 15, 16, I was already truanting a lot.
Okay.
Behind my parents' obviously knowledge. And bunking off school. And then I got into work, and I was working from 16 onwards. And from 16 to 22, as just a completely I was completely succumbed and completely overcome by gambling addiction, and I was gambling all of my money,
Yeah.
every penny that I was earning. And at 22, completely suicidal, completely in despair. I thought that I was the only person on the planet that was surely had such a, in such a condition.
Yeah.
And like I said, it all blew up, it all came out. And then I found somewhere, and I found what's known as a 12-step recovery fellowship, in this case, Gamblers Anonymous. And it's just a place of like-minded people, other people who also have the same issue. And by attending this venue, this place with other addicts, you support each other. You
Yeah.
mutually support each other. You help each other. You open up. You do a lot more listening, which for me is always good, because I love to talk and I love to hear the sound of my own voice. But you listen to other people.
Yeah.
You hear about their side of the story. You hear about their issues, and also, in this case, the common denominator is that we're all gambling addicts.
Yeah.
And that just completely changed my life. And that was at 22. So I'm now 39. That was 17 years ago. And I've had an amazing life, and everything I've been able to do and achieve is because I was able to thankfully find that place. It was actually my mum that helped me to find it. Good old mum.
Yeah.
Mumsy is always been on hand to help me in difficult times. And yeah, but as I look, and as I've been through my journey, I look at my friends, my family, I look at the people around me, I just look at the world. We all find ways. It's all about, this is just one way of putting it, right? Coping mechanisms. We all find coping mechanisms. That's just basic, in the work that I do as a transformational coach, as a speaker, as a writer.
Yeah.
I'm not a certified, degree level or PhD level philosopher of sociology or anthropology or psychology, but I'm in my own terms call like an amateur of those things, because it's just what I do all the time. We're all addicts, and we all find coping mechanisms for different things. The great Gabor Mate, the Hungarian, Canadian naturalized doctor and wonderful man. I've had the privilege to go and see him a couple of times here in London, and he had his first book in the realm of hungry ghosts. He was a doctor in downtown, was it Vancouver or Toronto? I can't remember now, but major drug and alcohol and substance and so on addiction in that particular part
he
was working with.
Right.
I can't remember, I don't know why it's gone from me now, whether it was Vancouver or Toronto, I can't remember, but
it was a Canadian city.
In Canada. And 20 years working, with some of the worst addicts there. And but the point that I want to make is that he says, I remember read this, or he said it in a talk, but he said, my addiction is that he buys LPs, like records.
Right.
And I was like, Gabor, it was that sort of like, I respect that. But
it's
that's not quite the same as, heroin or whatever, or cocaine or gambling every penny that you can, beg, borrow and steal.
Yeah.
But the point is that, we all find coping mechanisms. So, to the listeners that will be hearing this, maybe have a think for yourself. Now, the point is that the beauty of life is that we can all make choices, and that we can all seek for solutions. I gave a talk just over a week ago in Victoria at a co-working space, and I was talking about emphasizing this point that we can find a tribe, we can find people of like mind who want to support us, who want to be supported. And you can do that for pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Of course, whether it's religion or it's your football team, whatever it may be, but if you've got an issue, whether it's addiction, whether it's a mental health issue or something else, practical issues, right? There are charities for pretty much everything these days. If there's not, you can start one. Take action into your own hands, and just finding that help and finding that tribe.
Finding your tribe is something I always talk about, because I always go back to when I was a teenager, and how important it was to have people who were on my wavelength, because the school I went to, my year, I was not my cohort. I was not down with many of them, but I really did find my people in other parts of the school, and it probably got me through the school. I probably would have got kicked out or just walked out one day if it wasn't for that. So finding your tribe is so important, and it's made it I always say this is a techie one, right? Because like it's made easier by the internet to a certain extent, but the internet's also a risky place, and I think a lot of people forget that. Like it's more, probably a little bit more dangerous than like walking down the street, you know, and stranger danger and all of that. So finding your tribe, though, that's something I will really take away from this, because it's super important. Yeah. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Yeah, I think it's funny. After that talk, you know, getting feedback from different people coming up to me straight after or later, reaching out and just kind of getting feedback from people, which I'm always keen to do after any talk or any event or anything, generally speaking. And a lot of people, there was certain things that came up. One of the things that I mentioned was this idea around 1 second. And I said, you know, it only takes 1 second to change your life. Okay. And that really seems to resonate with a lot of people. And they're like, yeah, I really like that, because it's just that reminder that sometimes we all get caught in a certain way of thinking, whatever that may be. You're stuck in addiction. Oh, this is it. There's no way out. There's a job that you don't like, whatever it may be, you know, the myriad environments or situations of life. It only takes 1 second. And it only takes that 1 second of clarity to see, why don't I just leave the job? Why don't I just go and find some help? You know, whatever I have to do, wherever that help is, why don't I just, you know, make the decision to go to the gym for the first time? I've been humming and hawing about it for a year. Oh, I should go to the gym. Yeah, I don't feel great within my body. It only takes 1 second and when it takes 1 second, and that word clarity then comes in. So, and that was one thing. And the other thing was the tribe. Everyone was like, yeah, tribe, you need to find your tribe. I found this place that, you know, we call GA Gamblers Anonymous, and that was for my addiction. But it's become a place where I've met loads of amazing people, loads of really wonderful people, smart people, successful people, really cool people. And it's just been amazing. And it's just been a foundation for me meeting lots of other amazing people and circles. So for anyone that's, you know, maybe thinking, well, that's what I want, you know, get out there. And I'd like to actually just, if I can, talk very quickly about a good friend of mine. And he's a fellow transformational coach, and his name is Dubem Menakaya. And you know Dubes. And it's really interesting. So at the beginning of this year, we're really close, and we also do events and stuff together as well. So at the start of this year, he started doing a lot of like networking activities. Him going to other places and open mic nights and all sorts of cool stuff.
Hold up. There are open mic nights for motivational speakers?
Well, not specifically for motivational speakers, but just, you know, musicians, singing, dancing, whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
And he, like, just the transformation that he's been able to go through, he's found loads of clients through these events, like for himself as a transformational coach. He's met loads of incredible people. And it just reminded me that, like, if you're sat at home and you're thinking, well, you know, I want to meet new friends, I want to meet new people, and you can't seem to find the people that vibe with you, whatever your style of humor, your style of, you know, way of being, your movement, whatever it is that you're up to in life. Like, there are those people out there, but you obviously, you know, it requires you to get up and to do something.
It's so true, because like pursuing your interests, you find your tribe, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I'll always go back to poetry, but when I wrote the book, it was just me writing poems, and then I wanted to turn it into a book, and then it was lockdown, and then I was like, I'm going to open mics. But when you take yourself out of yourself and you're just pursuing your interests, you meet so many people, and it can be so much fun. So yeah, and I guess that's one way to find your tribe. Pursue your interests, not just in your bedroom kind of thing, you know, take it outside of your home.
Well, funnily enough, that reminds me. So, you know, we're influenced, right, by the people. There's that classic saying, you are the aggregate of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, right?
I have not heard that before.
Oh, great.
New nugget of wisdom.
New nugget. It's and yeah, that's a concept. It's not, you can't literally go, okay, well, I spend the most time with these 5 people. where you go and what you do will rub off on you, of
Oh, yeah.
course. So and actually talking about my good friend and associate Dubem, he really loves a writer and a creator, a coach called Stephen Pressfield.
Okay.
And he's got a book, Put Your Arse Where Your Heart Wants to Be.
Okay.
Quite a funky name for a book, quite a cool
Yeah.
name. But and I've not read that book yet, but it's certainly on my reading list. I've got hundreds of books.
So
I
you
think
also
mentioned.
have a to-be-read pile.
I do. My reading list is always, it's growing,
Yeah.
going away from me quicker than I can read.
Yeah.
But yeah, that book, the title sums it up. Put your arse where your heart wants to be. Get out and go to the places. If you're a photographer, videographer, and you want to do stuff, well, get out and go places that you think, oh, that would be cool to video or to photo that place. You want to be a videographer for clubs, for dance music.
Yeah.
Or just go to ministry and just start
Yeah.
recording, and then maybe send it or tag them online and say, yeah, whatever. So it's about creating what we want. And I'm actually doing, I've started doing events in the last 18 months.
Yes. Let's talk. But before we do that, I just wanted to ask, because you said transformational speaking.
Transformational coaching.
There we go.
And
Transformational,
motivational speaking. Yeah.
Are they two different concepts, or can they be interchanged with each other?
Either or.
Okay.
You decide. I think for me, that's all just one.
Yeah.
They all come back to a central flow, right? A central way of being, which is why starting from 18 months ago when I left, working with my brother in his company, and I decided that with the book out and published, I would pursue doing what I've always loved, which is essentially, there's this broad banner, right, that we can just call personal development.
Yes.
People working on themselves, and it's an extremely,
It could be like being in the gym
broad,
to like
exactly.
spiritual development.
To that very, high energy. Yeah, let's go achieve whatever we want to achieve, and everything in between. And I was like, speaking and writing and coaching are just different modalities, right, of the same core love that I have for life, for improvement, for helping people. Yeah.
But you've got a big.
I've got a big
speaking.
I've got a huge
engagement. Is that the right term?
You call it that? Yeah, engagement. That's a very nice sound to it. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of my own events, which has been phenomenal, and just having people coming and us creating transformational, positive energy, having personal breakthroughs. Fun activities, discussing ways in which we can grow as people. It's been incredible. And there's a really huge company that basically have a whole range of some of your biggest spiritual leaders in the world, and they've got, I call them the alumni, right, like you do at school, the alumni that have worked with, the company's called Alternatives, by the way, and they've had people from Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson. These are kind of like
the big names.
Some of the biggest names in spiritual leadership in the world. And this company, I became aware of them. I go to their events, of a lot of these people over the last few years. And long story short, I've gotten to know one of the directors there. And a couple of weeks ago, I got a call, and it was like, Matt, would you like to do something? And it's so funny how the universe works. So talk about manifesting and how you achieve things, and I hope this at least one listener will really be inspired by this. So I said a year and a half ago, I want to do an event with this company. Now, at the sort of like what I will call the societal level of where I was at, there was a mismatch, if that makes sense. I wasn't at that level. And that's the beauty. I just watched King Richard last night as well, and that's for some reason sparking. That's about Serena and Venus Williams and their father, Richard Williams, and mother, and their story, of course. And I wasn't at that level. But that's the paradox, right? And I'll explain that. And so over the last sort of 16 months, going to their events as just an attendee, as a customer, as it were, going to the events, and then speaking to the lady, the director, who's just awesome. And then I attended a course that they did at the beginning of this year. And so a few weeks ago, there was due to be an event on an evening at one of their major bases, which is St James's Church on Piccadilly, in the heart of London. And it's a beautiful church, by the way, Sir Christopher Wren designed church. And they basically had to pivot. And so because of the tube strikes, that was a few weeks ago, and there was tube strikes. And so it's like, would you like to come in and do just a short talk?
Yeah.
And I was obviously just like, yeah, of course I would like to come in and do a short talk. That would be awesome. And then no longer was it on the table that it was off the table, because the church were like, we're not going to open, actually, because of the tube strikes. And it's just too much of inconvenience. It's just too much hassle for us to get our people in to open the church and facilitate it. So,
that must have been heartbreaking.
I mean, yeah, I think anyone can imagine that if you've had something like a dream happen on the table and then it's pulled off, you're like, oh my, I was gutted.
Yeah.
I was with my friend, and we were going for me to go to a meeting, and I was heartbroken. But then by the end of that same week, this is like 3 weeks ago, it was like, how about your own dedicated 2-hour workshop at Regent's University, Regent's Park.
Yeah.
And it's Sunday, the 12th of November. So for hopefully everyone...
anyone who would like to go, we'll put the information.
Get that, hopefully this will be
hopefully this will come out.
in time.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty, right? And that's what life teaches you. I'm in a place where I just know everything happens as it's meant to happen.
Yeah.
That includes whether people hear this or not in time to be able to have... Everything happens perfectly. And a lot of my friends and close people have we've been talking about it, of course, the last couple of weeks. And it's like, how do these things happen? How do you go in 1 year from essentially self-certifying yourself as a public speaker, as a this, that, to getting an opportunity to speak with someone like Alternatives? They don't have a huge list, 40 years. They don't have a huge list of alumni, right? It's a huge thing. And there's lots of ways that you could explain it, but what is the ultimate? If you had to condense it and crystallize it down to a few concepts: belief, just absolute belief in the infinite, belief in infinite possibilities, belief in yourself, and belief that you're worthy, and belief that but that can, of course, only comes from within, right? That's self-defined and self-propelled and self-certified. No one else can tell you, no, you can be whatever it is that you want to be, whether you're a photographer or an artist or a marine biologist. You have to believe. You have to believe first. I can reach a certain level.
Yeah. I remember, like, often a term, like, the formula for success was preparation and opportunity, right? But prior to that, in order to be bothered to prepare, you need to believe you've got a chance, right? Because no one... I was about to say, no one prepares thinking they don't have a chance. I have been that person. But they are few and far between, right? The people who are like, I don't think I got a chance, but I'm going to try anyway, right? They are rarer. But it's always coming from some sense of belief, like, it could happen, so maybe I'll give it a shot, right? So, yeah, I feel like belief is the forefather of that sentiment, really.
Well, I think that's where there's a natural meeting of different elements. And what I mean by that is, what you've just said is a really good point. A few years ago, I'm talking about my just eclectic, mad way of being, right, and life. So I love playing darts, as I pretty much all sports, pool, running, football, tennis, cricket. I love darts, and there's one of the main darts places in London, throughout the country, Riley's. Riley's is a chain of pool, snooker, darts.
You are educating me on this.
We'll take you down. There's one in Victoria that I've been going to for 25 years.
Yeah.
Is it Ebury Place? I can't remember off the top of my head, but just down the road from Victoria. And every year, or certainly some years, they basically are one of the venues. So one of the biggest tournaments, the UK Open on the darts calendar, don't know what that would be, probably 4th, 5th biggest tournament after a few others, the World Championships, of course. And they have open qualifiers. Oh. So if you go and you attend on that day and you win 5, 6, 7 rounds of qualification, you will end up in the first, maybe preliminary round to the actual UK Open. You could be playing, you know what I mean, like an ex-world champion or someone. And I just thought, why not? I'm like, I play a little bit, but as in like no, this is silly. Like, I will get absolutely smoked the first game I play.
Yeah, but why not?
But exactly, and that's it, and that's the attitude that you've got to have. But therein lies the point, and that's a really good contrast to, for example, me and getting it. Alternatives is I am the things that constitute that, a motivational speaker, an author, a philosopher, all these things. I'm not a darts player.
Yeah.
And so you can say, all right, I'll go and join. Well, what did happen when I played? Well, exactly what I said. I got absolutely smoked. And in fact, the thing about, when you're nervous, I also play piano. And I remember I used to play quite regularly in front of people. And after a while, of course, you gain the confidence and you're not nervous with having 5, 10, 50, 100, 300 people in front of you.
Yeah.
But at first you are. Well, anything that requires the micro use of your fingers and nerves are not a good combination for obvious reasons, because if your hands are shaking, and my hands were shaking so much that my first few darts were pretty much hitting the other dartboards to the side of the one that I'm actually meant to be aiming for. So that's a good... that, yes, faith, belief and everything. Oh, let's give it a go. Well, of course you have to actually be
you need to practice
that pool of whatever it is that you're doing. You can't just turn up and say, oh, I'll give it a go. But if you, in as much as you know that this is something that you love and this is something that is just an inherent part of you, but you've got to have that belief, because there are just as many... my older brother, the businessman, he was reminding me the other day. There's a DJ and producer called Afrojack.
Yeah.
That many people, obviously, of course, know.
Afrojack had like a big hit when I was growing up. Yeah.
And he was, so this is
it Afrojacks? Anyway, carry on.
Me anecdotally sharing in a conversation, because I'm always, having amazing conversations with the people around me and just learning. And he said, Afrojack says, look, he says, are there DJs and producers or whatever that are just as good as me but don't have a fraction of the success? Yes. So why? Because they don't ultimately, however you want to frame it, they don't believe enough to just go out there and say, yeah, here I am, let's do it, let's go, let's ask the question. If you don't ask the question, if you don't have the... do you know what I mean? That just
if you don't ask a question, you will never get the answer.
So sometimes that's the thing that holds people back. They're actually qualified. They've got the talents, they've got the minerals, as we like to say, right? They've got everything that they need from a practical perspective that would qualify them. But what they don't have is that intangible, which seems so small, but it's actually huge.
I feel like intangible can be so many things, because in certain, if we take business, for example, you need clients. So it's all good and well me being like, I believe in myself, we've got the best product. If no one believes in me, I'm done. Because I need money to come in. And that happens when someone believes in the product, right? So while I do subscribe to a certain extent to all of this, you also need the outside validation. And that's the tricky one, right? That's the factor which no one really knows. And you don't really have that control, because like you said, with what Afrojack said, there are people making great music. And I see because I go to a few music open nights, I see so many phenomenal singers, phenomenal producers, and they aren't in the charts and they're not working with the big artists. And you just think to yourself, why is that? And what is that about? And sometimes it's the marketing. And it's really sad to say it, because it should not be about how much someone can be pushed out to the wider audience. It should be, I'm great, everyone sees it. But the reality of the world is it's not that. So, I get in two parts and minds about this. And also from having a book.
Yourself,
I know it's about the marketing sometimes from a personal experience. So,
there's a great, so talking about great film quotes, this is not in this book, but there will be a part 2. There'll be lots of more books over the years, of course. But there'll be a part 2 to a gold medal, because there's countless great film quotes, and there's still much more nuggets of wisdom and philosophy and inspiration and fun that I want to infer from those quotes over the years to come. But definitely part 2, there'll be a quote from I've got hundreds of favourite quotes. One of them, Denzel Washington, Detective Marcus Alonso, from the film Training Day, for which he won the Oscar.
I thought you were going to say Man on Fire.
That's Man on, Denzel's my favourite actor, right? splitting hairs. I've got lots of great favourite actors, but Denzel, if I had to choose, would be my favourite. He says in Training Day, right, to the young Ethan Hawke, Jake Hoyt, that is the character, and he says to Jake, he says, it's not what you know, it's what you can prove. Now, what does that mean? That means the same thing that you're basically saying. It's not about the fact that you're amazing. That would be you knowing, yeah, I know I'm amazing. I know I'm a great photographer or marine biologist or artist or whatever it is. It's what you can prove.
Yeah.
And marketing is that conduit. Marketing is showing to the world, this is who I am, this is what I can do, this is how great I am. But that's a circular concept, right? Well, that starts and ends with yourself.
Yeah.
And until you make that breakthrough, it's an uphill, it's an uphill, schlep that you have to go out into the world and say, right? Earlier this year, I took to the streets to sell my book.
Yes.
And I knocked 30,000 doors, 40,000 doors in the matter of a few months.
Yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds of doors a day.
And this is not an exaggeration, is it?
Oh no! If anything, I'm probably underplaying it. But I mean, the longest that I did on some days was like 9 hours straight, like literally not even stopping.
Yeah.
Not eating, nothing.
Yeah.
And that was sort of like the time frame of this was like March to June this year. And so by later on it was extremely hot. Earlier on it was cold and wet. I mean, I would be knocking in the rain with an umbrella, and obviously I'm trying to hold 10, 15 books in a bag, and I'm trying to hold a book up to show people. People would just be looking at me like what is going on? This guy's an absolute lunatic. And it's that there's two battles, and they're the same, but they're not. They're different, and they're of equal importance, and they're not. The first is the battle that you have with it. I'm framing it like that. It's not a battle at all. The battle for you to believe who you are and know who you are. Yeah. And that's, of course, obviously up to you. I know that I could be an awesome speaker, an awesome writer, an awesome whatever. Yeah. Podcast host, photographer, XYZ, accountant, doctor. Yeah. That's the first half. Then, now you and only you define what you are, right? It's only for you to say, I am the greatest football player in the world. Yeah. And you can say that and you can truly believe that. But of course, it's not the world. There's no right that the world has to believe that. Yeah. And if you go out minute by minute, day by day, year after year, and prove through your actions, if you truly are the greatest footballer in the world, at a certain point in time, the world will also affirm and attest and go, you are the greatest footballer in the world. Yeah. And the two will align and merge. There's a process to that. No one is going to come up to you and say, oh, Matt, you've got an amazing book, A Gold Medal's a Wonderful Thing. Ayo, you've got an amazing book. The title of which is Glass, isn't it?
Oh, don't worry about my word. Carry on.
No, because you know
it's
when you're in
that which makes glass.
Of that which, yes. And it's a beautiful poetry book.
Thank you.
No one is going to run up to you and go, oh, here's a £1 million contract. Here's a publishing deal. No, of course, you have to go out in the rain for 9 hours a day. And I say this, with a lot of passion and pride for myself, as I do for anyone. You've got to go out and believe that and make that happen. And as it happened, I sold hundreds of books in that short period of time, which just at a financial level was, enough to live off if I needed it. Just in that, to put it in, frame that in one way, but much more importantly, just to start generating the traction and the hype and the energy. And loads of people have reached out to me where I knocked and sold books door to door. I'm a little card reader because, of course, talking about fintech, no one has cash anymore. We need to keep cash, but that's another issue for another day. Let's not lose cash. But people reach out. Oh, my wife's reading the book. Do you know what I mean? I bought the book and we've got it on the bedside table. And now my wife's reading it and she's like, oh, this book's amazing. Like, who is this guy? I want to, everything starts and ends with you, with what you believe and what you do. And from there, everything then ripples outwards. Yeah.
But I mean, what happened with you selling the books door to door, it's a real testament to your tenaciousness. I think that's the word.
Tenacity,
that's the word. I'm making up words here. To your tenacity, but also the fact that you did so well in that period of selling a few hundred books. Like, that's no small feat, you know what I mean? That's a big deal. So yeah, and I also wanted to congratulate you on your speaking. Like, I wanted to do the because yeah, I remember when you started that, and it's so gratifying to hear, and it'll be even more gratifying when you do it. I'm not sure if I can make it, but I'll try. But yeah, we're gonna have to round up, but before we do that, I wanted you to read maybe one or two of your favorite passages from the book, because I think it's a great opportunity to hear from you on what you love about your book.
Well, that's, first of all, thank you for that opportunity. That's beautiful. It's hard for me to pick, it's like I'm not a parent yet. I don't know, but you speak to a parent or your parent, if you're more than one child, you can't pick, right? It's like you asking about pasta or pizza or walks on the beach or walks in the park. It's like, these are things that I love equally 100%, right? Yeah. So you can't, there's not all pages, 367, are equal. There are some days that I particularly love, but there are lots of them. So it's hard to pick between those. If I may, I'll do two. And I'll do the first, which is the first page of the book. And
1st of January.
The 1st of January. And it's what the title comes from. And it's just a really important message that hopefully runs throughout the book and everything that I do in my work. And it'll become clear when I read it. So this is January 1st, the Olympics of the soul. A gold medal is a wonderful thing. But if you're not enough without it, you'll never be enough with it. Coach Irv Blitzer, Cool Runnings. What are you chasing? The dream house? A Ferrari? The pin-up boyfriend or girlfriend? Maybe your goals and aspirations center around a spiritual objective. Becoming more zen. Being able to meditate for 10 minutes without scratching your nose. Figuring out why 42 is the answer to everything. All worthy goals or not, you decide. Point is, you can be content now. You are enough. A wise man likes to share the St. Francis of Assisi quote. What you're looking for is where you're looking from. You are the goal, the desired endpoint, the pinnacle. Until we realize that we are enough, no gold medals, mansions, Oscars, immaculately manicured social media pages, nirvana at a Tibetan retreat, or ayahuasca-fueled transcendence in the jungle of Peru, nothing is going to fill the hole in the soul. Coach Irv, the beautiful John Candy, forgot this elemental truth. He became addicted to the outward success, and all that sliding around on the ice numbed his brain and made him forget who he is. He was determined not to let that happen to his 4 awesome protégés, and by how the film ended, he fulfilled his role perfectly. By all means, keep striving. Life is enriched by our longing and stretching for worthwhile goals. But just remember, having or not having the perfect home, or any home for that matter, having a huge bank balance or being broke, having the dream #highlife or being considered a social media leper, none of those things change who you are. Sure, add the finishing touches of achievement and learning and prosperity, but never forget you are enough. That quote from my favourite film, particularly favourite film at such a nascent young age, where everything gets fused into the depth of your soul when you know the things that you love. I can play that scene in my mind. Derice, the driver of the 4 Jamaicans, he's in the room. They're going out for a bite to eat. It's the eve of the 3rd and final run. The first run was a nightmare. Again, this is massive spoilers. So sorry.
I was about to say that. You beat me to it.
Sorry.
No, say what you've got to say.
Second night, second run, they've done amazing. And now it's like, gosh, these guys. And of course, Coach had won. He'd won 2 gold medals. I can do the bit where Sanka's saying he wants to be driver. I've got 2 gold medals. I've got 4 world records in both the 2. And Derice, is asking him a question. And Coach Irv, beautiful John Candy, says this to him. Derice, a gold medal is a one, right?
Yeah.
Don't forget, I think this to myself, remind, we're not saying a gold medal isn't a wonderful thing. A gold medal is a wonderful thing. I've never won a gold medal at an Olympics. I can imagine the feeling of pride, of achievement that you've devoted decades of a life of dedication. Of course, it's a beautiful thing. It's a wonderful thing. But if you're not enough without a gold medal,
Yeah.
earning a gold medal, and it truly is earned, of course, earning a gold medal, becoming a millionaire or a billionaire, having a beautiful partner, spouse,
Doesn't change
nothing
it.
will fix the
Yeah.
hole in the soul. This comes back to addiction, right? This is what millions of addicts in the world learn, particularly when you succumb to a major addiction that robs you of your humanity. You have to find being right with yourself. You have to find that peace and contentment from the inside out,
Yeah.
and then do whatever it is. Go and earn Oscars, go and make millions, go and climb Mount Everest, go and win a gold medal, sure, but don't do it thinking that will fix. And the second one, which I'll read, is a little bit shorter, and this is just one about silence and peace, and it's kind of self-explanatory, but as someone who loves to meditate, loves quiet and peace, again, it's that eclectic nature, right? I love extremes, so I love the madness of London, going out, the noise, the hubbub, busy restaurants, clubs, whatever, and I also love just pure peace.
Yeah.
This is June 5th. If you speak my name, I vanish. Dr. Lessing, La Vita e Bella. Silence, like idyllic moments and sunsets, needs no narration. Silence can be used dualistically, for both clearing out and for ushering in. Silence is louder than thunder, more persuasive than the strongest argument, more transformative than the greatest teachers. Silence is the antidote, the stimulus, the answer, the question, the power, the pain, the punisher. Silence consoles and it scolds. Silence is a friend and an enemy. Silence knows what you need and tells you so if you're listening. Silence is golden. Silence is a song, a poem, a work of art. Silence is a trusted companion to the wise, an unbearable master to fools. Silence is the highest language. Silence tells you that you belong. Silence listens to you, always. Silence is everything and nothing. Silence is. I think that deserves a bit of a mic
I was
drop.
like, we needed a moment of silence for that one. Yeah, no, I don't know what to say after that. I was like, oh, I was really enjoying it. It almost felt like a poem.
I mean, you're the expert.
No, it really
the
did.
expert on poetry.
It really felt really
so
poetic.
You say it's a poem. I'll take that.
No.
I'll take that and run with it. Thank you.
No, thank you for coming on and for giving us some readings from your book. I really appreciate that. And just for sitting down and having the chat. Of course, we'll put Matt's socials. Tom will do his magic. Yeah, I think that is us for today. And everyone who's watching, thank you for watching, listening. I don't know what else people do. Oh, subscribing. Thank you for doing that if you have done that.
Could I just add,
say
yes, if people are interested in the book.
Oh, of course.
The book is available to buy on waterstones.com.
Yes.
So just put it in. You can just Google and it'll come up on Waterstones.
Can we have a little... Got it on Waterstone's website, everyone.
The book's there. You can also read a little synopsis if you just want to know more. And obviously, we've covered it a little bit. It's quite self-explanatory as a book.
Yeah.
It's just, very fun, film quotes. And then, and my events, check out my Instagram.
Yes.
For mattmainlife. So it's just my name plus life, mattmainlife. So, like, for example, my next one, Alternatives, the big one,
yes,
is there. The link's in my bio. I'll also be speaking at Brentford Football Club.
Oh, yes.
Which is huge and really exciting with Mind charity, the mental health charity. That's also next month. So you again can contact me about that. That's going to be specifically around gambling, addiction, mental health. So it's going to be really helpful for anyone that's struggling or just it'll be specific to that, particularly gambling. But of course, you can also come if you're just generally interested to know a bit more about mental health and addiction and how to find help or support or anything around that. So yeah.